can see. So if we go to edit, copy merged, that copies everything you see here. And let's actually make a new file for that, or a new window to work in. So we'll go up here to File, New. You want to make sure this is set to transparent, and this will already be adjusted to how the size of the area you copied. So we've got a transparent background. If it's white or background color, go ahead and change that to transparent. Hit OK. And paste that in there. Okay, we can now close out that. If we look at our image here, you can see that we've used a gold image. So I've already been working with some gold here. So what we can do is apply a layer style. So if we go to layer style, we can do a color overlay. Okay, and then this window will pop up. If you click on this box up here, which is by default red, a color window will pop up. And if you, as you move around on the screen, you'll see this little eyedropper tool pop up. And this is where you can sample different colors. If we were to click in our image here, it would sample from the image so that you can match colors if you need to. Now I've already been working with a gold color here, so I'm going to select that. And if you're interested, here are the hue values, or you can change the RGB values to the same here. You can also change things around here on your slider tool by adjusting the hue and the saturation and the brightness, all of that. We want a solid gold color. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as mine. Get it to where you like it. And you can see we've now got a gold Harry Potter logo. So again, we want to select the whole screen. We want to copy merged because we want to copy that gold color along with it. And we can paste that in. Use your move tool here, and we can move that around. That looks a little bit big to me, which is fine. We'll just go again over to Edit, Transform, Scale. Make sure that's locked, the aspect ratio, and you can change that a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so we're starting to get multiple layers here, and we'll need to keep track of them. Here on the right, if you're using a newer version of Photoshop, you'll see this Layers button. If you're using an old version of Photoshop, you can access that from the window, from the drop-down menu here for layers. So by default, it's just going to name these Layer 1, Layer 2, and so on as you add them. So we can change the name of those to keep track of them by hitting right-clicking and going to Layer Properties. This first one was, we'll call HP Poster Front. You can name these whatever, it doesn't matter, just something to help you remember it. Okay, for this logo now, you can see here that we have a blur effect. So I've actually had to duplicate that layer. So there are two layers there, and I put a blur effect on one of them. So this bottom one we'll call HP logo blur. Now we want to duplicate that layer so that we have another one. So go to Layer, Duplicate Layer. We'll call it Top. And it's going to put it in the same document. And it'll put it right on top of there. So right now, we're going to work on that blur effect. So if we go back here, we want to make sure that the active layer is the blur layer, the one that we first copied on the bottom. And then we can go to Filter, Blur, and Radial Blur. There are two types of blur here, a spin or circular blur, and then this zoom blur that's sort of like a warp speed style of blur. So we're going to use that. We want the amount to be around 60 or so. We want a pretty sharp, large amount of blur there. So you can change that to whatever you like. And we can change the center around here. Now this is for your whole workspace. So our logo, remember, is somewhere down here on the bottom. So we want to put the blur center around that area. Hit OK. It'll take a moment to go through. Okay, and now you see we've got a blur effect. That looks pretty good. So I've also added a little bit of a texture and a bevel to this top Harry Potter logo. So we'll work on that next. So if we go to our layers palette again, now we want to set the active layer to the HP logo top. Okay. Go back up to layer, style, and we want to do a bevel and emboss. Okay, we just want something small to bring out the edges. So I think you can change this around to your liking. I'm going to set mine to about 15. The depth looks pretty good. As you change this, you can just see how that'll change. I want that to be about 100 for me. Okay, that looks pretty good. Add a texture to this. So we've got bevel and emboss added as well as a texture. You can play around with these and get a texture to your liking. There are lots on here and you can add more go by just going through the Photoshop Exchange. So we're going to use this sort of liquidy chrome effect here that's in the upper right corner by default. So choose that, and we can change the depth of that. We just want something light. Okay, so I've changed the scale to 685 and the depth to about -55. Now you can see as you play with these how it looks. So set it to whatever you like. Hit OK. And now we've pretty much got that set. Now you can see here on the final product that the blur effect here is lighter color than this. It's actually to make it look more like a light effect. So if we go back to that blur layer, we can just change the brightness. So go to Image, Adjust, Brightness and Contrast, and that'll pull up this window. So you can go ahead and make it brighter if you want. We'll bump it up a good bit to about 70. That takes it from that rich gold color to more of a almost like a light effect. So we've got that now. The next thing we want to do is add the subtitle. So this is the Philosopher's Stone. So we're going to use a little bit of text. Now remember those fonts I gave you. The one that we're going to use for this and is prevalent throughout the Harry Potter stuff is one called Lumos. So change your text to Lumos. Go to your text tool and we'll go ahead and add that here. Okay, and here you can change where it's justified. We're going to go ahead and align that to the left for now. Right now my font is set at size 16. I think we'll make the words "and the" at that 16 font. However, let's change the Philosopher's Stone text to something a little larger. 24 is a little too big. How about 20? And you can, add spaces in here to get it moved around to where you want it. That looks pretty good. So then if we go to our Move tool, we can then move that around on there if we want. Still might be a little bit too large. So we can also transform the scale like we did with images. Alright, that looks a little better. Okay, the last thing we have on the front to take care of is the A Digital Man Extended Edition text. So if we go back to our text tool, we can add that up here. And that same size text looks pretty good. Change it to your liking. Alright, so we've got the front pretty much done now. Now we can work on the spine. Now we can just use the same layer for the spine that we did on the front. So we go to our layers, select that HP logo top. We can go to layer, duplicate layer. We'll change that to spine. Okay. So now there are two of those there. We want to rotate that. So again, we can go to Edit, Transform. This time, there's an option here for Rotate 90 degrees clockwise. Click that, and now we can move that up and over. Obviously, it's way too big, so we'll need to transform the scale again. And remember, always keep that aspect ratio locked so things don't look squished. And just stretch that down so it all fits in there. And you may need to readjust your bevel and emboss because it's going to keep that same size as it used for the large one. So let's bump that from a 15 down to about half that. So we'll go to 8. And texture looks pretty good. Okay. Let's move that down just a little bit. And we'll need this text here as well. So that was the and the Philosopher's Stone. So go ahead and duplicate that subtitle layer. It's good to name things so that you can recognize them later on. Okay, so now we've got that again. And we want to rotate it just like we did before and move that over. And again, that's probably too big, so let's transform the scale. You all should be pros at that now. Let's see how I have it set here. Make some final adjustments. That looks pretty good. Okay. So we've got two items left for the spine, this ADM extended logo and this DVD logo. Let's go ahead and add that DVD logo right now. So if we navigate back over to our